Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Nilamadva ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. So tonight, we are celebrating the fact that after 7 long years, we have received all the permits to continue and complete the construction of our temple in Bellevue. To construct a building like that, it requires all these plans. Each page has to be signed by different inspectors. You have inspectors for the mechanical work, inspectors for the electrical work, inspectors for many, many different aspects of the building. They have to have exact drawings explaining what's happening on every floor and all the different technical things that are required to build out this building. So until every page is signed by a different inspector, they will not give the permits. And then you have to have the description, written description of everything that's going to happen in that building. So that's like a book. Explaining all the different things that are happening in the building, and all the things that are permitted and all the things that are not permitted in the building. It includes traffic studies. It includes the number of parking spaces. It includes the gardening. There's gardening area. All these different things have to be enumerated in this. And they know exactly what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And they write it down. So that takes a long time, and it requires many different studies that we have to do. So we had a company called Freiheit and Ho, who are technical people that helped us in the permitting process. And they are experts in traffic, in building, and all aspects of the building. So it takes a long time to do all this, and it costs a lot of money. And the reason it took so long is because we had a renter in that building. So we're going to present these plans to the deities, so as you can...
It's already done.
Already done?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we had a renter called Peak Sports, and they were paying considerable amount of rent every month to help us pay the mortgage. The mortgage was $23,000 a month. So we purchased the building in September 2013. So it's going to be almost 9 years ago. And we have been paying that mortgage without fail every month. We refinanced 3 years ago, and it reduced the amount to like $19,000 a month. And the Peak Sports was paying up to $10,000 to $11,000 a month in rent. However, their lease ended in the end of last year, in November 2020. And when we discussed a new lease, they had the legal right to extend it another 5 years. So the rents in Bellevue increased tremendously between the time we bought it and the end of their lease. And so if they wanted to stay, they would have to pay at least $15,000 a month. So they decided to leave, I was very happy that they did that, because that means that we have no obstacles and no, let's say, responsibilities with a renter. And that means we have the use of the whole building. And because they agreed to move out, they were on the bottom floor. We had planned and we got approved to build the temple on the top floor with the kitchen on the top floor. But now, when they moved out, I decided let's put the kitchen on the bottom floor, because it'll be safer and it'll be cheaper to build it, because it's closer on the bottom floor to all the sewer and things like that. But when we asked to do that, it required the whole permitting process again. And that's why it took a year to get the approvals of the new inside the organization of the temple. So anyway, it's all finished now. And we're going to start finishing that temple in January, and hopefully by June or before June it'll be finished. So this requires a lot of determination, because you can see how complicated it is to build the building and get all the permissions. We did the same thing for this building, and it costs a lot of money and a lot of time, and it's very frustrating, because the longer you wait, the more new codes the city passes. And then every new code will require a lot more investment to satisfy it. So anyway, we did it for this building, and now we've done it for Bellevue. And it's a great success for us, because now we can open a temple in the Spring District of Bellevue, which is the new downtown area, in which there will be a light rail station only 2 blocks away from the temple. The already Amazon, Facebook, and of course Microsoft and many other businesses have offices in that area. And many people are moving from Seattle to Bellevue because of problems with the city of Seattle. And there'll be at least 12 to 15,000 new IT jobs there. And already in a perimeter of 5-mile circumference of the building, there are about 25 to 30,000 Hindu families living. So it's, 25 to 30,000 members of the Hindu community living in almost walking distance of the temple. So it's a new hub of Seattle, of the Seattle area, of the east side. Bellevue is developing tremendously. You can see so many buildings going up there, and we're right in the middle of it. And also, in the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to change the zoning of the place where the temple is right now. When they change the zoning, we'll be able to build buildings that are go up to at least 6 to 8 floors, which means that the value of that place is going to skyrocket. It's already tripled in value since we purchased it, and it's going to continue to increase in valuation because of the buildup that's happening right now. It's called the Spring District. In 2012, I read about the new Spring District that was going to come up in the next 10, 15 years. And fortunately, I had one of our accountants that lived in that same place where the present temple is. And that building burned down. It was an office building. And one day I was with my friend, our accountant, and his office was right next door to that building. And he said, Prabhu, you should buy this building. I said, really? I mean, it burned down. He said, yeah, but they're going to rebuild it brand new, and you should buy it. So I thought about it, and then I read about the Spring District coming up, which was right in that area. So that's when I decided, let's buy this building. And the owners of that building did not want to sell it because their business is renting out office buildings and buying properties where they develop. So when I approached them, they said, we're not interested in selling. And for 8 months, while the building was being reconstructed, I kept talking to those people. And eventually, because I kept offering them more and more money, they agreed to sell it. But the value that they wanted, it kept increasing because for different reasons. They wanted more and more money. But anyway, I was determined to get it. And they finally agreed. And the reason they agreed was because in early 2012, there was somewhat of an economic downturn. And when I offered them more and more money, they finally thought, okay, let's sell it. We can cash out our building, and we can buy other buildings. And the day they handed us the keys, it takes at least 3-4 months after you negotiate the purchase of a building to actually get possession of it. And when they gave me the key, they said, if we knew 4 months ago what we know now, we would never have sold you the building. Because in that 4-month period, the whole economic situation changed. And it went into a new acceleration of values and so forth. And they were really upset at that moment because they realized they made a mistake. But that's Krishna's mercy, right? So here we are today with a building that's worth at least $15 million. And we're going to build it, finish it, open the temple hopefully by June. And it's going to be a very, very popular building because it's right in the center of the new downtown of Bellevue. And Bellevue is going to develop more and more. So we're very lucky, and Krishna blessed us to be able to do this. And one person who was very instrumental in inspiring us to do this was our dear friend, Srikant Satyanarayana Prabhu and his good wife. One day, when we were still contemplating how we're going to pay for all this, he walked into the temple and he wanted to talk to me. And he said, Prabhu, I want to help you. I want to make it easier for you to buy that building. And I was really surprised, right? And to make a long story short, he donated $500,000. And it did make everything easier for us. So we had to raise $1.5 million to put a down payment. And miraculously, we were able to get a loan of $3.5 million from $3.6 million from our bank, even though the mortgage we were still paying the mortgage on this building. But we had never had any problem paying the mortgage on this building. So we had a good relationship with the bank. They trusted us, and they gave us a $3.6 million loan, which is amazing for a nonprofit. And eventually, we paid off the mortgage on this building, and that made our position even stronger. But like I said, it really happened because of the money and the sacrifice that Srikant made. And I would like to invite Srikant Prabhu now to say a few words and give his vision of why he wanted to invest in this building and build a temple for Balaji. Of course, in the meantime, a whole bunch of other temples came up with Balaji, but that's okay, because our desire is to make a temple that is following strictly the same principles that are being practiced in Tirupati and, of course, Sri Rangam also. So a pure Vaishnava temple. So Prabhu, would you like to say a few words?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So, when I heard this news day before yesterday, I was really overjoyed because from 8 years we have been trying to get this permit and finally it happened. The good grace of Lord Krishna. Yeah. So initially when I was not even contemplating donating the money or anything like that for the temple, but when Harivilas Prabhu came and said we should build a South Indian style temple for Balaji here, it made me think. It made me think about it. Because I was never planning to give $500,000. It was never in my plan. It was half of my saving at that time. So then what I was actually, first time I came to Seattle, the thing that really moved here is that people are always welcoming, asking us to come into the temple and participate in the temple. First time I came like 16 years back to Seattle area, this temple didn't even exist here. It was like a small hut kind of thing, right? And when I first came here, Harivilas Prabhu and other friends, they were welcoming, asking us to come inside. I was really very happy. Felt like very welcomed in the temple. And then I donated to this temple also at that time at a much smaller amount, though. The real reason why I wanted to do is the purity and the honesty of Harivilas Prabhu. Of course, we all do it for the Lord. I mean, that goes without saying. But as they say in Sanskrit, God comes in human forms to make us do the right things, right? And that is Harivilas Prabhu. I have seen temples all over the US. All temples have issues, politics, fighting, this, that, and all. We thought, we will just build a temple, just pure temple with pure intentions. In fact, we will not have any tickets or anything like that. This Abhishekam is this much, this is that much, Archana, nothing. If people want, they will donate. There'll always be a hundi. If you are willing on your own volition, you will donate. But we will never ask. Another thing is temples we go, the prayer is happening, some president or some guy comes and start asking for money. I don't like that at all. People will give money if they want to give. We should not be asking them give money. Harivilas Prabhu never asked me money. And one day I thought, and he exactly repeated those words, Prabhu, don't go and ask 10 people. It's okay, I'll give $500,000 for this temple. I heartfelt gave that at that point of time because having people with that kind of sincerity, honesty is the hardest in life. We can earn money, we can earn anything else. But finding people with sincere heart and good souls is always difficult. And that too, if the intention is to really build a temple, which is kind of very unique in the sense that, you never ask for any money. You donate if you want to. If you don't want to, you're fine. Just pray and you can go. But when you enter the temple, as no one is asking for money, but there is a sense of spirituality filled. Temples are meant for people to come and coexist and learn. It's not like, you come to pray alone. That's not the thing. That's why in all our traditions, there's a sit in the temple. After you pray, God, sit in the temple for some time. Because of all the good things we do in the place, good people who come there and do good things, it gets some energy, which is what we all should imbibe. And that energy won't come if people are asking for money and then running around, Abhishekam ticket, Abhishekam sponsors like that. Even in big temples, it's not happening that way. This will be the first unique temple in the whole world maybe, where we will have completely spiritual, there will always be music flowing, you enter, you pray, people don't talk and go down, and there will be a separate hall where people can socialize. And we will do all the rituals. In fact, we are planning, Harivilas Prabhu, and planning the temple will look exactly like Tirumala and everything, with the Jaya Vijaya on either side and all. We're going to plan everything. All the rituals will be exactly like in Tirumala. So people can live and see this. It's hard to see all those in Tirumala because you can't get tickets to get to all of them. But you'll see exactly those events, the way it is done in Tirumala, they'll write in front of us. And in a very much higher spiritual level that we want to take this, that people come there, they'll see this, they'll feel very happy about it. Right? So that's the only simple goal with which we started. Luckily, we got this. So hopefully next year, 2022, we will have this temple up and running. And thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, our Guru Dev, Srila Prabhupada said, purity is the force. Shastras are the basis. Utility is the principle. And the utility is the principle. And the last one, what is the last one? Yeah, preaching is the essence, right. So, if we do those four things, Prabhupada said, if you do something good for Krishna, then you don't have to worry about money. Just do something good. So, for example, every week we spend at least $600 to $800 buying fresh flowers for the deities. Every day we make 6 offerings for the deities. Every day we bathe the deities, dress them with different dresses, and then we change the dresses twice a day. They have their morning dress, their daytime dress, and their evening dresses. So these are not statues. They are not idols. There's no difference between the deity and the Supreme Lord, because the Pran Pratishtha ceremony has been performed, and we've invited Radha and Krishna, or Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, or Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, or Lakshmi Nrsimhadev, Gaur Nitai, to come and live in the deity form and accept the service of the devotees. So this is what you would call a Seva Ashram. Whenever anyone comes in here, they make specific spiritual advancement, because they come, they pay respects to the deities, they receive prasadam, they might hear a class, they participate in the kirtan, and they have nice then people to greet them and to treat them as members of the family, the Achyuta Gotra, the family of Krishna and Narayana. So without the, let's say, the pressure of having a huge overhead, this temple has many volunteers, up to 500-600 volunteers throughout the year, who come and offer their services and are happy to do their services because they feel definite, let's say, camaraderie, friendship, spiritual inspiration, peace, and an affectionate community where people are cooperating with each other. It's very hard to get people to cooperate, even if you pay them a lot of money. It's very hard for them to cooperate in a loyal and, let's say, sincere way. But if the leaders of the temple themselves live an austere life and are not exorbitant in their material needs, and they are dedicated to serving Balaji or Krishna with love and devotion, then everything becomes happy. Because no one has a personal agenda other than to please the Lord. So that is the secret. That is called pure bhakti. In pure bhakti, there's no mixture with yoga or jnana or karma. It's not karma mishra bhakti or jnana mishra bhakti or yoga mishra bhakti. It is pure bhakti, in which the only desire is to please Krishna, and one does not expect anything in return for that service. So that is a special thing. And in the Vedas, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the secret of success is when a devotee is very sincere and does not have any desire for material sense gratification or enjoyment due to a higher taste. What is that higher taste? That higher taste is spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. So we see this is the traditional culture of India. That's how places like Tirupati, Srirangam, and Kanchipuram, and all these different places, beautiful temples were built because people actually felt happy. They had transcendental feelings coming to the temple in which there's a safe and affectionate relationships with pure people. So this is called Dadati Pratigunati Guyam Akyati Pritchati Bhakte Bojayate Chaiva Sadvita Pritilakshanam. The temple is a place where 6 types of loving relationships are shared. Giving and receiving gifts, giving and receiving prasadam, and giving and receiving endearing thoughts about Bhagavan or Krishna. This is a place where one can share those types of loving relationships freely and without any motive other than to please the Lord. So when, and therefore it says in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter that it says, when devotees meet each other, matchita matkata prana bodhyantas parasparam katyantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, Krishna says. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me, meaning Krishna. So, that is the whole point of the temple. It's a place where you can hear the science of God, the science of Krishna, and understand the unique position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna expands himself into Narayana and to Vishnu forms, and there are millions of expansions. There's millions and millions of Narayanas in Vaikuntha. There are millions and millions of Vishnus in the spirit, in the material world, and there's not just one material universe. There are millions of material universes, and in each one there's Brahma, there's Shiva, there's Vishnu, and there are the Devatas and so forth. All this is an expansion, originally from Bhagavan Krishna, and especially Balaram, and then the first Chaturvyuha, and then the second Chatur, and then Narayana, and then the second Chaturvyuha, and then the Vishnu incarnations. And from the Vishnu incarnations, there are 3. There's Mahavishnu, there's Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, there's Shirodakshaya Vishnu. From Shirodakshaya Vishnu, all the avatars appear, Matsya, Kurma, and so forth, Vamana, etc. So this is a science, and it's all explained in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam in detail. There's no other scripture in the world like these 2 specific scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking himself and answering all of Arjuna's questions. And Arjuna is asking every significant question to clear the path to complete surrender to Krishna. And at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks Arjuna, have you understood everything that I have explained? And he said, and if there's something that you haven't understood, I'm willing to explain it all over again. So this is the ultimate love that Krishna has for his devotee. He explains everything to clear the path to complete surrender to him. So he says, Itite jnanam akyaitam guyad guyataram maya vimrisyaita asesena yatachchasi tatakuru. He says, thus I have explained to you the knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, Arjuna, and then do what you wish to do. So Krishna himself does not force anyone to surrender to him. When he says, Yatashasi tatakuru, now you decide, Arjuna, what you want to do. So this is voluntary. And there is this freedom that if we don't want to have a spiritual life, Krishna doesn't stop us. He helps us to engage in material activities. But all material activities ultimately lead to failure, because there's birth, there's old age, there's disease, and there's death. And eventually, after a long lifetimes, and many lifetimes of having great hopes for success and then failing, eventually a person decides, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavamam prapadyante vasudeva saramiti samahatma sudurlabha. After many, many lifetimes of trying to enjoy the material world and failing due to birth, old age, disease, and death, finally one comes to the realization that Vasudeva Saramiti, Krishna, you are everything for me. I no longer have any more false ideas of succeeding in the material world, because everyone's going to fail in the material world. Now I want to come back to you, Krishna. I want to come back to Vaikuntha or Goloka and again experience my normal nature of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Therefore it says, Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. That this is Brahma speaking. He says, Ishwara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme Ishwara, or supreme controller of everything, spiritual and material. And then he says, Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha. And his body is made of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. He has a body, just like we have bodies. But our body is made of blood, veins, stool, urine, ligaments, muscles, etc. Krishna's body, and he has a specific body, it's called Vigraha, is made of Sat Chitananda, eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Now, we are part and parcel of Krishna. We have come from Krishna. That means what? Mamayavamsa Jivaloka Jivabhuta Sanatana. We are also Sanatana. We are also eternal. We also have a body that is made of Sat Chitananda. But because we walked away from Krishna, we come to the material world and we have a covering of our spiritual body called the material body. And the material body has two aspects to it, a gross aspect and a subtle aspect. The gross aspect is made of Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayu Kam Mano Buddhire Vicha Ahankara Ityame Bina Pakritirastata. It's made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. But the subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. These two lingas, or these two aspects of the body, material body, covering the soul, becomes what we would call a obstacle to our spiritual understanding. And almost everybody in the world today identifies with the body and not with the soul. So when someone comes to a temple like this, we explain what's called Atma Tattva, the science of the soul. We are not this body. The body is always changing, but our soul remains the same. Therefore, and Krishna is also present in our heart as Paramatma. He is the witness of everything we're doing, everything we're thinking. So if we decide to turn our attention to Krishna, then something miraculous happens. And this is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's also in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, Shinvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hirdiyantaksto hibadrani vidu noti suhit sitam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who's dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. So therefore, if Krishna sees that we're interested in hearing about him, he's in our heart. He takes a special interest in us, and he helps us to clear all the obstacles in our life to becoming pure devotees of the Lord. Now, if you become a genuine devotee of the Lord, then Krishna personally takes care of you. If you don't come to that realization and you want to simply enjoy in materially by using our senses and our mind and intelligence only for making money and only for engaging in sense gratification, then we come under the control of the devatas, and the principal devata, or the warden of the prison of the material world, is Durga Mata. And Durga Mata, she's a pure devotee of Krishna, but her job is to first give us success materially and then take it away from us. And when it's taken away, we become extremely frustrated, and we become confused, and we become defeated. Now, why does Durga do this? Because she wants to teach us that we don't belong in the material world. We belong in the spiritual world. And eventually, by continual failure, life after life, eventually the soul will become, or the person will become convinced, I don't want this anymore. I want, and I saw this personally. When I went to Tirupati, I visited the house where Ananta Alvar lived. And there was a very nice Brahmana, an older gentleman there. And there are pictures of Ananta Alvar's whole story, how he was told by Ramanujacharya to come to Tirupati, and because at that time, over 1,000 years ago, there was just a little hut. Like there was just a little hut here also, right? Well, there was a smaller hut for Balaji at that time. And the Brahmana would only come once or twice a month to perform a service for Balaji, because it was a jungle and there were animals, wild animals there. And you had to walk up. There was no road there like there is today. You had to walk up through the jungle to get to the top where Balaji had this very small hut. So Ramanujacharya asked Ananta Alvar, he said, you go. At that time he wasn't an Alvar. He was married. His wife was pregnant. You go to Tirupati and you take care of Balaji. He and his wife had to walk from Srirangam to Tirupati. It's not a short distance, right? And his wife was pregnant. And when they got there, they saw this mountain that's a jungle and it has wild animals, and they had to walk to the top of the mountain. And he brought with him a metal bar. Why did he bring that? Because the first thing you have to do to have worship, you have to have water. Now, there's no water on the top of a mountain. There is rain, but there's no water. So he had to build a tank to capture the water. And if you go to Tirupati, that bar that he used is still there right next to the deities. You can see it. That's the beginning. Tirupati existed before that, but over time it deteriorated. And then there was just a hut, and there was hardly anybody worshiping the deity. So therefore, he had to go there by himself with his wife, who was pregnant, and he had to build. The first thing he did was to build some kind of a reservoir to catch the rainwater, and then he could do the regular. And then from that, he started growing flowers, and so forth. And he had to maintain himself and his wife, and eventually his child. So fast forward to when I went there to Tirupati, I visited his little ashram that he had near the temple. But the Brahmana there was a very exceptional person. He was an older gentleman, and he was explaining how his children were IT people. One was in America, another one was somewhere else. And they were not interested in, they come and visit him once every 3 or 4 or 5 years, but they were not interested in becoming real brahmanas like the father. And I asked him, I said, do you ever go to America? He said, no, I'm not interested. He said, I will never leave this place. This is my ancestral home. Many, many generations of my family have been here, taking care of this ashram of Ananta Alvar, and I will never leave it. And that's a dedicated person. See? And then I realized how biology can evoke in people complete dedication. Complete dedication. And that was very significant. I mean, I've seen it in Krishna consciousness also, but I was very happy to see it there, that there's such a person like that. He's probably still there now doing his service. This is what is necessary to have a temple. You have to have people like that that are not interested in making money. They're not interested in having big houses. They're not interested in any of those things. They're satisfied simply speaking about biology and Ananta Alvar for the rest of their life. And at the moment of death, that's the only thing in their mind. And then they go back to Godhead. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tiyajat ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sadatat bhava bhavitaha. Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that whatever we think of at the moment of death, that's what we will attain in the next life. Whatever state of being one remembers when he or she quits the body, O son of Kunti, that state he or she will attain without fail. So at the moment of death, that's the best moment in the life of a Vaishnava, and it's the worst moment for a materialist. You see? You see the difference between the devotee and the materialist. For the materialist, it's a horrible moment because they're going to lose everything they accumulated. You can't take anything. There was once a king, a Muslim king in Delhi, and before he died, he ordered that they make a special casket for him. He wanted 2 holes in it, and everyone said, "Why does he want that?" But they were afraid to say anything. So finally, before he died, he explained why he wanted 2 holes in it. He said, "When you parade my body in the casket to my grave," he said, "I want 2 holes because I want my hands sticking out. I want people to see my hands are empty, that I'm going to death with nothing." See? So he was a smart man. He was teaching by his own example, and that's a fact. The only thing you take with you with death is your karma. You can't take anything you accumulated. It's the only thing is your karma and your unfinished desires. So that's a formula for horror, because you'll see, or we will see, Yamaraj instead of seeing Narayana or Krishna. And Yamaraj, he's just doing his job. He's also a pure devotee. Yamaraj is a Mahajan. He's an expert in Krishna consciousness, but he's just doing his duty. And based on the person's desires at the moment of death and their karma, they receive a body. And the karma is always mixed. It's good things they did and bad things they did. And there's no guarantee what body they're going to have. It depends on what they did and what their desires are at the moment of death. There are 8,400,000 types of bodies you can get. Aquatics and plants and reptiles and mammals and birds and mammals and then humans. There's 400,000 different human species. So the 8,400,000 species are not just on the earth, they're in the whole universe. That's why there's 8,400,000. So far, as of today, hardly 120 million species have been identified by scientists. So you see, the materialistic understanding of this universe is very, very limited. But if you read Bhagavatam on a regular basis in Bhagavad Gita, then you'll learn the real story. So, therefore, the best moment is the moment of death for the devotee, because at that moment, they are free of all material desires, and they simply are desiring with love and affection to serve the Lord. And they go back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha or Goloka. Therefore it says, Krishna tells Arjuna, Tasmat sarve sukale su mam anusmara yudyacha, mai arpita mano buddhir mam evaisasya samsaya. Hey Arjuna, therefore, you should always think of me in my form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your duty, your prescribed duty of fighting, with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence dedicated to me. You will attain me without fail, without doubt. So this is the purpose of spiritual education, to fix our mind on Bhagavan, Narayana or Krishna or Rama, and the rest of our life live a pure life. And pure life means being a minimalist. What does that mean, a minimalist? Well, this is explained in Ishopanishad. This is the last thing I'll explain, and then we'll stop. Where it says in the first mantra, Ishavaisham idam sarvam jat kinja jagatyam jagat tena tak tena bunjitaha ma gritaha kashasridanam. It says that the Supreme Lord is Ishwara, the Supreme Controller, and He is Purna, He is perfect and complete in every way. And because He's perfect and complete, He has set aside for every living entity, that means the animals, the insects, the birds, the aquatics, the human beings, everybody, their minimum quota. If they accept the minimum and use the rest in the service of the Lord, they'll never be affected by the laws of karma. And then the next verse says, Kurvani vaha karmani jijiva chek shatam samaha evam tvayi nanyatetosti na karma lipyate nare. If a person lives like this, then they can live for hundreds and thousands and millions of years and never be affected by karma. That means that they'll go back to Godhead. So this is what we have to teach our children. This is what we have to learn ourselves, that we can earn $1 million a day, but we can hardly spend, let's say even if you're a high roller, you can hardly spend $1,000 a day. So what are you going to do with the rest of the money? It should all be used in the service of God. That way, you're not affected by the laws of material nature, birth, death, old age, disease, and you're not forced to work very, very hard all the time, or not have time for spiritual activity. You're not harassed by the laws of material nature anymore because you're living in harmony with the Lord. So this is what I saw in that Brahmana, the older, very distinguished gentleman in Tirupati. He was not affected by anything. His whole life was to speak about Ananta Alvar and Balaji. And his whole life was spent right there, right in the holy place, Tirupati. Say, he had understood the purpose of life. So this is what we want to teach people in the new temple. We want to have what's called Varnashram College. How to organize society so that everybody in the society, even the people that are chandalas and dacoits or whatever, even they can make spiritual advancement in such an atmosphere. So I'll stop right there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shrikant Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. So we didn't get a lot of people who came tonight. Maybe we didn't advertise it enough, but that's all right. The message is there. It's on the internet also. And thank you very much. And now we're going to go forward and open this temple. Hare Krishna. Huh? Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Gita Jayanti. There'll be hundreds of people here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Please come here. Please come here.